to go live. Hey, what's going on? It's Chatterbox. How you all doing? And today I'm joined by a very special guest. It is former Times communist. We've got Tony Evans. How you doing, mate?
Oh, not so bad. So how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just enjoying the lockdown. Restrictions are ending and all that. So hopefully we get back to normal soon and we start enjoying our lives, going to games more and meeting each other in person. So yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, it's been a strange time. I've still had the opportunity to go to matches, and it's very, very weird being in a stadium, an empty stadium, and going to the grounds and not seeing people, not talking to people. It does take away from the experience. On the other hand, it's been quite interesting listening to the players and coaches talk. And that's been the one positive of it, but it doesn't do enough to balance the negatives.
Do you think Liverpool in particular have suffered more in regards to lockdown? Because obviously Anfield is your 12th man, I feel. I feel like the fans have always pulled you through games. And do you think Liverpool have suffered a little bit more than other teams? Because Old Trafford has its days. It's loud sometimes, but it can get a little bit quiet. So I don't think it's affected us as much as teams like Liverpool. Do you think this is the case?
I think to a certain extent, because while Anfield is the same as Old Trafford, then neither ground is what they used to be. Anfield seems to be able to lift itself, certainly for big nights and European nights, more than most places. And I think what's unusual about Klopp's team is they feed off the crowd more than any other side I've ever seen, and more than any other Liverpool side. So, yeah, you can argue that. On the other hand, the professionals get on with it. I'd say it's a 5% of an excuse. That's not the reason things have fallen apart this year. It hasn't helped, but anyone who's using that and saying, it's the lack of crowds is looking down the wrong path, I think. You think somewhere like Leeds, Ellen Road, the first season back in the Premier League for 14 years, 15 years. Imagine how loud and hostile that place would have been, and the difference it would have made to Leeds. Again, another team who look like they feed off the energy of the crowd. So I think you can say a little bit, but not really.
I think sometimes the crowd, when players are not playing well, they can get on top of players, and it might push them to do better. I mean, such as pulling out of challenges now. I've seen a couple of players pulling out of challenges. I mean, I don't know. I've seen one video of Marcus Rashford pulling out of a challenge, and I just thought if the crowd were there, that little bit of bite, it adds that little bit of extra incentive, for them not to make mistakes, not to pull out of challenges. So it's going to be like that. I feel. This is unprecedented times with no crowds. I mean, obviously, it's interesting you say that you hear captain shouting. I can imagine if it was Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville, the sort of language that would have been said with no crowd. And it is a good education into managers, the way they speak to their players on the side of the pitch, etc. I agree, and that's one positive to come out of it. It's at least we have something, So I wanted to talk to you today about football rivalry. I know you've written a lot about your city, Liverpool. I wanted to know when does football rivalry become too far? When does it get too far? And I mean, I've spoken to an ex-Liverpool player, Jason McAteer. Of course, he's an ex-Liverpool player, and the hatred he was receiving online was absolutely diabolical. As a Man United fan, I wasn't happy with the abuse he was receiving, so I reached out to him. How do you feel football rivalry is these days, and is it healthy in regards to the way rival fans are treating other players, etc. online? Obviously, we had Thierry Henry deleting all his social media accounts. Do you think sometimes it can go too far?
Well, definitely. I mean, I think we've got to put it into context, really. I mean, I sort of started going to match at a time when obviously there was no social media, but what there was football violence in a really, ugly manner. And especially, Liverpool and Man United, it got out of control. And you think, so you'd have the whole Liverpool section singing Munich songs, which obviously completely unacceptable. You look back on it now, like you look back on so much that happened in the past, and go, what was anyone thinking? But I mean, there was an element of you had to go outside. If you were singing that, and the scoreboard ends, then you had to go outside, and there'd be people waiting for you. And I'm not saying it was a good thing. I'm not saying it was that the violence, but there was a certain amount of responsibility you had to take for it. And it's whereas now online, you don't really have to take any responsibility. You can just abuse away. And again, not advocating a return to hooliganism and violence, but what I'm saying, there was a different sort of mindset there. And now people can say things online with complete and utter impunity. I mean, one of the things that segregation actually did was make hooliganism worse, because people would say things and shout things when the crowds were all mixed in, and they get pulled up for it. They'd say, "Hey, you can't be saying that. You can't be doing that." And like I say, there was an element of responsibility, whereas now it's the things people say online are just absolutely unbelievable. It still goes on at the match a little bit, but hardly any compared to it was. But it seems that sort of the philosophical hooliganism has gone online. People are saying things that intended to wound, intended to hurt. They're thinking of the worst things they can possibly say. The levels of racism online are just absolutely appalling. And anyone who writes about football, can expect a certain level of abuse, and it does sometimes goes beyond. I mean, I'm fairly robust about these things, but even someone like me, I mean, there was an Arsenal fan a few years ago who I tweeted something about. It was something to do with football, Arsenal, and the player. I think it was probably that Ozil, who was never my favourite player. It's one of them. And his response was, "You should have died at Hillsborough." And it was around the anniversary, and so it's going through. You go through difficult times like that, and I had nightmares and things like that. And I don't think people realise the extent they can wound other people.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. I mean, I've had it a small amount. Obviously, I'm not a huge channel. I'm not an ex-footballer, so I can only imagine the amount of someone like yourself, obviously, and an ex-footballer would get, the abuse they would get. I only had a taster of it, and some of the things they were saying, the incriminating things they were saying, I couldn't believe it. It was absolutely horrible. And obviously, we had the death of AFTV Claude. He on the podcast, and people were like, "Oh, it should have been you," and things like that. That's when it's pushing it too far. I mean, obviously, you mentioned about back in days when fans used to sing songs about. They still do sing songs about Hillsborough or Munich, and obviously it's out of order because that's a human level. When you're talking about death and stuff, that is beyond sporting rivalry. And this was the point I was trying to make to some Man United fans. Said you can have your banter, you can have a laugh, you can talk about X games, players, whatnot. But there is a line that you have to watch out what you don't cross, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. I mean, I know Liverpool fans. My brother's a big Liverpool fan, and I've been at Manchester Piccadilly and sat there for 2 hours speaking to a Liverpool fan, and had a good conversation, about football. And it's just football at the end of the day. And when people are going online just to troll people and to, obviously, you said racial abuse. We had it a couple of weeks ago with Fred. It's absolutely embarrassing, and I've been saying it for a while now. As a United fan, I can't talk for other clubs, but as a United fan, we're embarrassing ourselves a little bit in regards to this racism, because we're going to be categorised into one bubble of racism, like Millwall were in the past, West Ham. So yeah, I agree. And what do you feel can be done about this in regards to social media and eradicating all these trolls online?
It's difficult because, I mean, the obvious answer is, make sure people are identifiable, and so they have to give the details. But then again, there's other people who are anonymous for a good reason. There's people who work in the law, people who work. There's accounts of policemen tweeting anonymously about the flaws, in the system. So you've got to get the right balance. I think we're in an era where, and people have always lost perspective over football. And as you said, it's only football. It's a game. It's supposed to be a laugh. And I think one of the things that strikes me about the modern game is most people, as they use the phrase, consume it through television. So they don't actually go. I mean, for me, it was all about going with my mates. It's having a good time. I mean, if it was all about the match and the results, I would have stopped going when I was young. It was about a bigger thing. It was about a social thing. It was about being part of a bigger group. Now, the good thing about being online is it allows you, no matter where you are, to be part of this whole, bigger thing. But on the other hand, it means that there's less human interaction. And, there is a tendency to, we see it in all aspects of society and politics, to dehumanize people who are on the other side and have different views. And I think that really is, I think, the internet's a symptom of a deeper problem in society. And there's nothing profound about me saying that. I think everyone knows that. I think if we couldn't, you see people, again, the thing that gets me, modern football, people are tweeting, if there's a foul or VAR, a penalty, someone dives, going, this could cost my club millions. Why are you watching football for if you're worried about cost? Football's about fun. It's about having a laugh.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say it's entertainment because it's got deeper cultural, roots. But it should be about pleasure. It shouldn't be that serious.
No, it shouldn't be about life and death. I mean, obviously we say it. I mean, it's the old cliche, it's life and death, but it shouldn't be about, I hope, like one Man United fan said to Jason McAteer, I hope your wife dies of AIDS. That's the one that triggered me to reach out to him and speak to him on that level. And I realized that he was a nice guy, and and some of this abuse was unwarranted. And I feel like too many people hiding behind fake accounts. They can just delete their account. Their account gets deleted. They'll just start a new one. I mean, whether they put a passport system in place where you can only have one account, and you get banned after that, I don't know. But it's a bit sad the way it's going on. I mean, even as you said, it's a cultural thing. With United, we have cults within our fan base as well. Self-righteous fans that have been going there for a long, long time, for 30, 40, 50 years. And you can never win because, me as a Londoner supporting United, a Cockney Red, and, you're always going to be judged as well. I'm always being called a fake, I'm non-stop every single been a season ticket holder as well. And you're never going to win with these people. And I just feel like, social media, it's become too easy to approach famous people and players as such, and I feel like there needs to be like some sort of like detector on Twitter to identify these trolls and, the racism. It's not only racism, it's slandering of people's names and stuff, and going on YouTube, Twitter, etc.
The number of times I've been called a nonce.
Every day.
Because football views, you're saying I'm a child molester because of another story. I was at an event in Ireland. A guy come up to me at the bar and says, "Oh, you blocked me on Twitter. Can you unblock me?" I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I said your mother was a whore." I said, "Have you been to Liverpool?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It was a joke." I said, "But you've come up to me." I said, he said, "I was drunk," and I'm like, "But." I said, I should slap you. I said, but, and he said, "Oh, I do feel a bit stupid." And the thing is, I thought, what, actually, he probably wasn't a bad fella. He didn't seem like a bad fella. He seemed a bit of an insignificant, it's, I was just like, what possesses people, even when they're buried, to go online and say things like this. But, people are never going to agree with you, and I don't mind people, disagreeing, with me. And you kind of the abuse comes with the territory. It's but when you meet most people face to face, they're really nice. Another troll who's like threatening me, and I said, well, come on, I'll be in the pub. I went to the pub. The first thing he said to me is, "Can you sign a copy of my book for me lad? He loves your book." And I'm like, "Well," and the next thing he was tweeting, I was out with my mate Tony Evans having a drink. I kind of don't get the mindset, but when you do meet them, the vast majority of them, the abusers, are normal people.
Yeah, and they don't know who you are. They don't know you in person, the type of person you are as well. They just assume that you're this person online, because Twitter isn't real. It's fake. The whole thing of famous people, etc. Is fake. And when they meet you in person, they probably exactly. I've seen the same. And that word "nonce" is commonly used, even in United fan base, which try to slander peers. It's trying to slander you basically, and and I've been called numerous amounts of names. It's unreal, and I can't even imagine what it's like for someone like yourself, someone like an ex-footballer. And when I go to Old Trafford, the thing is, I go to Old Trafford a lot, and I've never had any issues. I generally get on with everyone. I don't know who these people are, but it's sad in one way. Moving swiftly on to.
I was just going to say though. I mean, there's a very long tradition of Cockney Reds, so I don't know why anyone would be having a go at you.
I've had Cockney Reds attacking me. I mean, I used to go on my own because I only used to have one season ticket. So, I used to go on my own, and I used to travel up to Manchester overnight by coach, meet up with the fans at the airport, go on the plane to the Champions League games, and go to the city centre straight after the game, go home on a plane, and straight back to work. So I'm a proper fan, but unfortunately, you're in a constant battle with real United or top Reds. I know you've got top Reds in the Liverpool fan base as well. You've got real fans that are judging you because you host a podcast, or they feel like you're making money out of the club, which is a complete myth. Myth. They think, oh, you're just trying to make money out of the club. And I feel like there's more deeper problems at Man United than podcasters. And at the moment, we've got the Glazers, and they're leeching out of the club, and this is a big problem at the moment. And this is the whole point I've been saying. I said, instead of calling out ex-players and abusing ex-players, why don't you just use that energy in a positive way to try and raise the awareness about the Glazers and what the Glazers are doing for United? And it's exactly the same with Liverpool. And obviously they don't want to listen, and it's just continual trolling. They don't just it doesn't matter if you put them in their place or speak facts. It's just that they're just going to say whatever to suit their narrative. That's the problem with it at the moment. So they're not listening. And I was having this conversation a few weeks ago in regards. I know you've spoken before about Michael Owen and ex Liverpool and Man United players jumping ships, going to Man United or going to Liverpool, like Paul Ince. Obviously, we had Michael Owen as well. Do you feel that players such as Michael Owen and Paul Ince can never be deemed legends at the club? Because I was having this conversation in regards to it before, because I saw Michael Owen was getting a lot of abuse online. And do you think that they can never be deemed legends of both clubs? I mean, obviously, Michael Owen played for both Man United and Liverpool. Do you think he's a legend at Liverpool? Do they class him as a legend?
Well, I don't. And I think it's not because he went to Manchester United. I think it was because, well, he was unfortunate in a way to come up while Fowler was still there. And, Fowler, Fowler connected with the city. He was Scouse. He was of the city. He showed the T-shirt supporting the Dockers. He had that sort of cheeky sort of non-conformist type of attitude. Whereas Michael Owen was a professional footballer, and they should be professional. I've written about it today. They should be professional, and you shouldn't say the mercenaries, because it's a job. And if you get the offer of a better job, most people go. They're not like us. They don't have the emotional. Very few of them have the emotional investments. And if they do, they should learn to break it. Otherwise, they'll get treated really badly. But Michael Owen was, he was a bit detached from everything, and it's quite interesting because he seems he's very guarded. He's very you listen to him on his commentary on television, and everyone says how dull he is, and actually in person, when he's not guarded, he's really interesting. And I once said to him, "Why don't you speak like this on telly?" And he just he didn't really know, but he never. Some players connect with the fan base, and others don't, and you don't have to be particularly brilliant to connect. But sometimes you can be brilliant and don't connect, and I think Michael Owen was like that. I think in some ways Paul Ince had this sort of same problem as Old Trafford, in that he played, and he plays in a position, and he was great at that position. But then Roy Keane come along, and and suddenly Paul Ince looked a little bit, you could see why he was surplus to requirements and all this, the governor stuff. It was a bit really big balls, and I can imagine, I can imagine him being liked an awful lot at first, but then there was a little bit of suspicion about him. Again, I think it's more to do with his character than his attitude, or his perceived character and attitude, than his actual.
Do you think he was as hard as he made himself out to be? I mean, I used to call him facial expressions, because he used to make a lot of facial expressions, but no bites as such. I felt that he weren't as hard as the governor, as you say, as he made out in regards to. That's why Roy Keane came in, and it sort of belittled him a little bit, because obviously Roy Keane is the real deal when it comes to, a real hard guy, in football. I just felt that he weren't as this reputation he had was unwarranted. I just feel like he was a little bit. He was more of a classy player than anything, in my opinion. He used to put his foot in every now and then, but I just don't think he was as hard as he made himself out to be, as the governor, as they said.
I think that's the key, the self-promotion involved in it. Roy Keane didn't need to tell anyone he was the governor. He ran that pitch, whereas Paul Ince was like, I'm the governor, look at me, I'm the last one out with my shirt off. And there was a bit like, just take it down a notch. You're a very good player. And he didn't have the leadership qualities. People would follow. They mightn't have liked Roy Keane, but they'd follow him. And they knew he was totally committed. I don't think Ince quite had that, but he wanted to be that, and there was a bit of trying too hard there. And I think it's a fan base like United's and Liverpool's. There's a lot of sort of people who are both clued up and a bit cynical. They've seen an awful lot. And and they see through any. I wouldn't use the word fraud, because it gets banned around. And Paul Ince was definitely not a fraud, because he was a very, very good player. But they see through any weaknesses where people are just pushing it and trying a bit too hard. And I think that didn't help Ince at either club.
It's the same with Steven Gerrard as well. He didn't need to tell people, I'm the governor, I'm the man. You just go on the pitch and you just prove yourself. Actions speak louder than words, don't they? And you just get on the pitch. I mean, it's like Paul Scholes, who used to get on the pitch and just play football. He didn't need to tell people he was the best player, one of the best players in the world. You just knew he was. He didn't even speak.
You see with your own eyes. You see what they're doing, and and you see the influence they have, and you don't really need to be told.
Yeah, exactly. I want to bring it on to the Super League. This talk of the Super League. Obviously, a few years ago there was the story in the Times in regards to the Dream League. Now it's coming to the fore now with the Super League talks. Do you feel a Super League would be good for the game in regards to the big clubs, money, investment, media, etc.? Or do you feel like it's going to have an adverse effect on the smaller clubs?
I think it's a terrible thing for the game. Increasingly, what we're seeing is and it was in October, the business school at Liverpool University did a study into televised games, and you see who are the main attractions in football. In English football, Liverpool and Man United. Essentially, the took a mean of, and they took Bournemouth because they weren't sort of a strong Premier League club and has only been in 5 years, and they looked what you'd expect for an average Bournemouth televised game, and then compared to everyone else to the uplift on it. Liverpool and United was 75% above that because expected audience is 75%. The next highest was Arsenal at 43%. You can see that the global, and they think it applies globally, although it was a study in Britain, but people want to watch Liverpool and United. They are the biggest attractions, and the clubs know that. The American owners know that. Part of Project Big Picture is about that, and the move towards the Super League will, sort of is part of that. But I think what it'll do, it'll divorce the highest level of the game from the infrastructure, and I think that's a really sad thing. I mean, I hate the changes to the Champions League. I just hate everything about it. I just think it's working. It's not working as well. I mean, I liked it when it was Champions and you had to earn your place in it. But yeah, I see the Champions League and the top four. I see that's worked really well, and so we can all be happy enough with that. But now, the coefficient qualification and stuff like that. I mean, if Liverpool, if they finish seventh, would be into the Champions League, and although the top four would still go in, it leaves a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. So yeah, I mean, I think the future will increasingly be about the big clubs who will gain massive televised audiences playing between themselves. And I think we're going to have to see a restructure of the lower levels of the game to accommodate that. And I can't say I'm thrilled about it.
No. I mean, I was raised in Leighton. My back garden was Leighton Orient, literally. I had a floodlight in my garden. And, I know how important football in the community is. What it does for the community, for these small clubs, for these small towns. It's essential, and they don't know how much these smaller clubs help the bigger clubs in a way. Obviously the Champions League. Obviously, I can't complain too much because we won a treble as the second place team in England the year before. But I agree that champions. It should be the Champions League for the champions. I thought the FA Cup winners as well. People win trophies. Coming sixth or seventh. Sort of, defeats the argument, defeats the point of a Champions League, because it's all leading up to this Super League sort of thing. With Liverpool, obviously, if you come seventh, you're going to have this, go into the Champions League. And for me, it's all boiling down to them eventually implementing this Super League, which I feel like is just going to destroy the communities, within towns like Leighton and I feel that it's not a good thing. And, it's grassroots football. How many players have come from grassroots football? Got players like Jamie Vardy, who came from non-league. What's going to happen with players such as, the future Jamie Vardy, So, in my opinion, it will kill the football and it'll be a huge mistake.
Yeah, I think it's, I see a future where, sort of United, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Barcelona, United, PSG, Liverpool, Bayern Munich, they'll be the fixtures that they're selling. And I think for me, games against big European clubs are attractive when the rare, an exotic thing. I mean, it used to be even better, when there wasn't wall-to-wall television, and you didn't know, you'd hear about players and you'd never see them. But, you get the chance to, you draw them in the European Cup, or, you'd see a final on telly and you get to see the players. Now we know everything about it. The air of mystery's gone. And on one end, that's good because you get to, you can watch almost every minute of Lionel Messi's career at the moment, But on the other hand, I did love that air of mystery. I suppose that's because I'm old. But,
Yeah.
But I don't really want to see Liverpool playing PSG twice a year, every year. I don't want to see it. I'd rather, to be honest, I'd rather play Everton. I'd rather play Aston Villa. That sort of thing. I just think I think there's once we see a Super League and we see these superpowers become really detached from the infrastructure that they grew up in, I think facing the further detachment from the communities that created the clubs, and I just can't see that being a good thing.
Yeah, me too. So it's the way football is. I mean, when you play the Champions League should be a special occasion. Number one, it shouldn't be like you play PSG. It should be a special occasion. You play Juve. It should be a special occasion, not 3-4 times a year. Because the novelty wears off. It takes the excitement away from it because those Champions League nights, they're exciting. And playing Juventus or AC Milan or whatnot should be a once in a season thing, not 2-3 times a year. And it's just going to take the excitement away. But as you said, I do like the games against Villa. The games against Leicester, those sort of games as well. We need those sort of games. That's football. And that's what football is. That's what football comes from. Those are games, the grassroots games, the bread and butter. And I feel like if we implement this Super League, it's just going to take out all the excitement that the game's going to become too generic, American in a way. Like I wouldn't say, I mean, nothing against them, but it might become too American in one way, and I feel like that would be bad for the game, especially the English game, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, both clubs have American owners who, like closed shops. They don't want relegation, and they want basically to make as much money as possible out of the clubs. And I think Fenway have been better for Liverpool than the Glazers have been for United. I think the Glazers have been catastrophic for United. When you think probably taken in the region, I haven't done the figures lately, but the last time I looked, it was way over $1 billion they've taken out in fees, loans, various financial shenanigans, and imagine that money had been plowed back into the football club. The situation they would have been in. I just
I just feel like the work that Sir Alex done for 30 years. I mean, he built United in one way. He made us one of the richest clubs in the world. He didn't spend as much. He didn't spend as much money as people think. But we had a lot of money in the club. We could have went out and spent 100 million without even thinking. But now it's like, oh, we're penny pinching. We can't make signings because the Glazers are buying players for the NHL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're buying 70 million players for them, rather than concentrating on United. And and the problem is they're laughing because there's too many United fans that are against each other in regards to this. There's too much division, and when there's division, the Glazers are going to win because the unity is what's important, and the unity within the United fan base is out the window at the moment. I mean, I tried to make a 58th minute walkout at Old Trafford. A few people did walk out, but I was openly mocked about it. And, at least I was trying to do something, and trying to do something productive in regards to this. But I feel like as long as fans are fighting each other, debating with each other, arguing with each other, these owners are just going to win, because they're just going to look at them, let them get on with it, rather than if they unite. The same with Liverpool, and we try and get rid of these owners. It will only be better for United and Liverpool to get rid of these leeches out of our clubs because Liverpool have done better. There's more structure to it. They know what the owners know what they're doing. You've won trophies, but we haven't won the league now for 8 years. We ain't won a major trophy for 8 years, and we haven't come close to it either. So we came second a couple of times, but 30-odd points behind Manchester City. That's not second for me. And anyway, second is the best loser for me. I mean, I want to challenge for that title. I want a title. I mean, I remember us losing the league in 1995 to Blackburn. It ruined my summer, and we came second. We came close. It ruined my summer. Honestly, it was horrible. And again, in 2012 with Guerrero, obviously we're going to see that goal a lot of times now again. So I just feel like, the fans, they need to unite a little bit more and try and dethrone these owners. I know it's not easy, but I don't see it getting better for United. I see us becoming like an Arsenal where we're happy to take top four and just that's it. And that's, for me, that's not football.
I think my biggest disappointment with United fans has been, sort of the green and gold until it's sold, and it turns out to be green and gold until we win some trophies. And the Glazers have been allowed to continue. We're almost with impunity, and I know there are United fans who've been trying to bang the drum, people like yourself, and have been trying to bang the drum and rally people around. But there's an apathy there, and I sort of expected more from United fans.
Yeah, and obviously, what was I going to say about the club in regards to the Glazers? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I mean, I love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but I just feel like he's a little bit of a puppet to the Glazers, and I feel like he's too sensible in regards to his team. He's very cautious. He's too defensive. As a Liverpool person, what do you feel about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? His style of play, the way he carries himself. Do you think he's right for the club?
I thought one of the telling things was when he first got the job, and he was talking about turning up in his car in the manager's spot, and he was like, "Oh, I can't park there because that's Sir Alex's spot." And I think United need a manager with a bit of swagger, a bit of a bit of this is my spot now. I'm the boss. Having said that, I think he's grown, he's developed. I still don't think he's a top-class manager, and there are times when the sides he put out, I don't think they play with the pace and snap that United should and could play with, because there's a lot of pace in that side, and tactically he's obviously not a tactical genius. He's been saved a little by Fernandez, who's been brilliant. Who's and he's got top-class players. He's got. There's a lot of talent at United, and they should be in a position where the challenge in City, where the push in City. I'd argue there is in the squad much more talent at United than there is at Liverpool. So yeah, I don't think he's.
I don't think he's going to take us to a title as such. I think he's steadied the ship, but I don't think he can take us to that next level. I mean, because you need that in-game management that he doesn't have. He has one style of play, in my opinion, which is counter-attacking football, and he struggles against a low block. And semi-finals, obviously, he's lost 4 semi-finals. I mean, obviously, everyone can lose a semi-final. Klopp has, but Klopp obviously got Mainz promoted, and he had a background of, as a winner, winning things, and he done big things before, with Dortmund, winning the league with Dortmund, which changed the cycle completely. Obviously, Bayern winning it every year. So it's just that worry that he's never actually won a major trophy. Obviously, he won in Norway, which is not a major league, of course. But I just don't feel like he has that winning mentality. And another thing is that all his career, he was content to stay on the bench. He was happy to stay on the bench. And there were times when he could have went to any club in Europe, and he was just happy just to sit there on the bench for all his career. I mean, for me, that says a lot, really, about personality, that he didn't try and, try his luck somewhere else. He got too comfortable. I mean, and I see him on the United bench with his iPad, and, it's just, I don't know if it's a modern day thing, but I like to see my manager on the sidelines, hyping up the troops, etc. What are your opinions? Do you think they should be, a manager should be really on the sideline, not just sitting there, it just gives me the wrong impression. I don't know about you.
I think a manager needs to have an air of authority and being in command and being in charge, and part of that is his demeanour on the sidelines. I don't think Solskjaer. United have made such a mess of the managers since Ferguson left, and we're still seeing that play itself out. And as you say, he's brought an element of stability to the club. like you, I don't think he is the man to take them on to the next level, the level at which United should be. And I think I think most fans across the country were happy at the thought of him getting an extended contract. It's and I think he is a nice guy, and you can't say he doesn't know his football because he does, but does he have that intangible that would make him a great Manchester United manager? No.
I think he's too nice. I mean, Alex Ferguson. There's a story about Alex Ferguson in regards to when he used to manage the team. He used to adapt his personality to different types of players. I remember when Cantona kicked the fan at Crystal Palace. He went in the dressing room. He gave the players a rollicking, and he just turned around to Cantona and said, "Cantona, don't do that again." And then he went on to the next player. And I think that's what Ferguson had. He had that versatile way because he knew that if he kicked off with Cantona is the sort of character to just respond, and he knew not to do that with Cantona because obviously some players need an arm around them, some players do need a rollicking. I feel like Solskjaer is too nice to everyone. I mean, it's like too much of a friendship club at the club at the moment, and you need that little bit of bite within the camp. I just don't feel we have that at the moment, and that's why I don't feel like he can take us to the next level. He has done well. But he spent a lot of money as well. And on the right players, I don't know. But as you said, I think we got a better squad than he's making out. We got some very, very good players there. And I don't think we're using them to the best of their ability, in my opinion. So for me, I've given to the end of the season. If he wins the Europa League, I'll be happy with that. But again, I'm not confident, and when you haven't got that confidence, you feel like he's not gonna, next season it's gonna be the same thing, round and round in circles. At least with Klopp, you're not doing as well as you was last season, but at least with Klopp, he can change it. If he has the money, he'll buy a couple of players and he's going to change it, turn it around, because all Liverpool need, I think, is a refreshment. What are your feelings on Liverpool in regards to now? Do you feel like I feel like they need a couple of more players just to freshen things up a little bit? Do you feel that's
they should have bought from position of strength when they won the Champions League, when they won the league. They should have bought then, and sort of bought better then. Really, they've wasted time, and obviously no one knew a pandemic was going to hit, but that's had a massive impact as well. Yeah, I think they'd reached the point where opponents had worked out the tactics. So, everyone knows how to play Liverpool. They know the wing backs are going to pile on. They know what the front three are going to do. They're going to press high. And so everyone knows how to play Liverpool. It's easier said than done, of course. But that and the injuries haven't helped. I mean, it was reckless to allow Lovren to leave and start the season with only 3 centre-halves. That was daft. The question now is, will he be as good when the players come back next season? Well, who knows? I think they had the opportunity after winning the Champions League, particularly to strengthen and to throw down a marker for City and say, we have the opportunity to challenge you in the next 5 years, properly. And because of the way things were done, they let their opportunity slip. Now they're playing catch up again. And can anyone catch City? It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be, especially with the talk of Haaland and Grealish signing for City. Can you imagine they sign Haaland and Grealish as well? I mean, what do you think it's good that what City are doing? Because obviously they're buying the league, in my opinion. They have done since they had the owners. I mean, obviously they won the lottery, and good for them. But do you think it's good for the game that they're just continually buying players to improve? I mean, they spent like 500 million on the defense alone. It's like it's a bit unfair in my opinion, and it's not football. I think that is another thing that is destroying the game a little bit. I know it's good to have money in the game, I know, but there needs to be some sort of cap, because whether you have to play a few youth players or your players from your academy, I don't know. But I just feel like City are just going to walk away with it again if they carry on improving, especially if they get Haaland and Grealish.
well, financial fair play is dead. It's and so they'll be allowed to buy with impunity. And part of me thinks, well, they're not going into debt. They've got the money, so why shouldn't they use it? And then the other part of me thinks, this is it's just going to skew the league completely. Having said that, I mean, Liverpool and Manchester United bullied people with money for years. Real Madrid and Barcelona does. Now City are doing. We've moved into a different phase. I say I have mixed feelings about it, but they've got to find a way of making sure that it's not just all about stockpiling the greatest players in the world, the greatest players available, and keeping them in one place. I mean, with the pandemic, who's got the money for Haaland again? Right about this week, or indeed Harry Kane, who could be available. Who's got the money? City, PSG. Well, United are. The Glazers are willing to do it. The three clubs, it's Real Madrid and Barcelona in difficulties. So it's the pool of buyers is shrinking, and it's another step in the direction of the Super League. Because the one thing you'll know, that we all know, is that City were bought to project Abu Dhabi, and you know what? In Abu Dhabi, they don't really care if City are playing at Burnley. They don't, it doesn't matter to them. But what they want is to see them on the global stage, those massive TV audiences, the global audiences, projecting the Emirates status, against Real Madrid, against, against Barcelona. That's how they envisage it. They don't imagine football as we do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you said, it's all going towards that Super League, the road of the Super League, of course. I want to ask you briefly about pundits in the media who criticise certain players, namely Graham Souness with Pogba. What are your feelings on Graham Souness? I mean, as a Liverpool guy, as a Liverpool fan, what are your thoughts on Graham Souness? Obviously, he's a legend for you guys. Do you feel it's fair, the criticism he gives out to certain players, the obvious targeting of certain players?
I've spoken to him about this, and he can't believe that Pogba's so good and isn't dominating. He's it's as simple as that. He's like he actually loves him as a player and can't believe why he's he isn't imposing himself. He's and it's the frustration as someone who wrung the most out of his career. And one of the things I said to him, you're criticizing Pogba. I said, and for his lifestyle and all that. I said, your nickname was Champagne Charlie. I said, and he said, yeah. He said, I enjoyed my career as a footballer. He said, I did everything I wanted to do. He said, I held nothing back. I was in the nightclubs. I was having a great time. He said, but I did it on the pitch. He said, and the problem is, Pogba's not doing it on the pitch often enough. He should be one of the best players in the world. And yeah, I get his point. There is a certain amount of, and I think you see sometimes Pogba's body language. You think to yourself, come on, knuckle down. When you see him on the pitch, I look at him, and funnily enough, I went to the Champions League final in 2015, Juventus and Barcelona, and for a brief spell in the second half, Juventus were on top. And you thought, are they going to get back into this game and go on to win? And it was Pogba and Vidal in the midfield. And I remember thinking to myself, this should be a dominant pairing in the midfield. But the two of them were as brainless as they come. And I think there's a little bit of frustration about Pogba that way. He's got everything, and he doesn't show it often enough. Now, that said, I don't see him on a week-to-week basis. Most of the time I see Pogba on TV. So you've got to be at the ground to really judge a player and see what they do when the cameras are elsewhere following the ball.
The argument some United players, some United fans have is that no one has really push. At United, it's like we got players there, lack of quality. We've got a lot of lack. We've got some players there shouldn't be wearing a shirt, to be honest. And I feel like obviously the disappointing thing is Pogba being used right? This is the question. Is he playing too deep? Are we not getting the best out of him playing him forward? But as you know, I mean, it's common sense at the end of the day, watching football for a long time. Great players, they impose themselves on the game, and they change the game like Roy Keane did. It's not how deep he's playing. How is he playing that formation or that? He just imposed himself in the game wherever he was on the pitch, and great players don't need.
I think you raise a really good point there about is Pogba being used in the right position. I mean, if it was me, I'd build a team around him. I'd say to him, do what you do best, and everyone else will make allowances for you. You go on the pitch and you hurt people, you prove your greatness. And the rest of us, if we have to do more running, if we have to do more covering for you, so be it. I think he is that good. He's got the range of talents. I'm not so sure he's got the one thing about Keane's football awareness, his knowledge, football intelligence was off the scale. He knew how to use space. He knew when to make the run. He knew when to hold. I'm not so sure Pogba's football brain is as advanced as that. But I do think United have never got the best out of him, and I'd be working the whole side around him and say, you're the man.
You're the man.
Yeah.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. He should have been the main man from the start. But it seems like whether he's incapable, I don't know. But I just see him for France, and I see a fantastic player. And that's the disappointing thing about it. Obviously he's got Kante behind him, and it works. But I just feel disappointed with the way he's played for United over the years. I mean, he hasn't been our worst player, not by a long shot. He's been one of our actually most productive players over the years. He's been our most assists, most goals from midfield. I think it's just the way he carries himself. People obviously the price tag as well. People want to look at him, and I don't think he's played to the best of his ability. I think the managers have something to do that as well. The coaches, or they're going to Solskjaer and etc. I want to bring it on to England quickly. With Southgate, I heard him speaking about players playing on form, picking players on form. I was a little bit disappointed that Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Trent Alexander weren't in the lineup, in the squad. Do you feel that Southgate is the right man to take England forward in regards to 2021?
I thought he was the right man a couple of years ago. After the chaos of sort of Hodgson and then Allardyce, and he come in and he was the right man for a very young group of players who were developing, and he gave them a chance, and and he won the trust. I thought that was brilliant. I always wondered, even back then, whether he would be the person to take them to the next step as they grew and matured and reached the ages of 25, 26, and 27. When in international football, you need a bit more tactical acumen than Southgate has, and I wondered whether he'd sort of reached his ceiling about a year ago. England are winning and they're doing okay. Everyone was raving the Poland game about them, the way they kept the ball. And England teams in the past we've seen that they treated the ball like it was going to. Whereas England kept the ball, but they didn't kill the Poles off, and they were playing a very, very dangerous game. And the other thing that always bothers me is the substitutions. We saw in the World Cup, they get to the last half an hour games that they dominate the last 20 minutes, and he'd make a change. I mean, one of the things was taking Sterling off. He took Sterling off a lot, and suddenly the opposition would get on top. And we saw that we saw that on a number of occasions. We saw that against Sweden, against Croatia, and killing games off is an issue. So yeah, I'll be very interested in seeing how the Euros go. But England, who I reckon I'd take this squad to the semi-finals, need actually to I've got the talent pool to go further and to actually do something. And I wonder whether Southgate has the depth of tactical knowledge to get them over the hump.
I agree. I mean, I felt Croatia, the World Cup game against Croatia, I think tactically you got it wrong with obviously Croatia were attacking us down the left side, I saw, and they called us out. I think he's a good manager to take us to a certain level. I think he's too defensive. I think we got an array of attacking talent there, amazing players. I mean, some of the best players in the world now. Obviously got Sancho. I think Foden's going to be more beater. He's an unbelievable player. I mean, and I feel like I think we got the best attack in Europe. I mean, in regards to you got Rashford, Kane, Sancho, Foden, Sterling. Not many countries in Europe in the world can boast that array of talent. And with Spain not doing so well, Germany not doing so well, I think it's a good time for England to go out there and just finally do something. And I feel like Southgate, I've just got this fear that Southgate will play the right way against the smaller teams, but when it comes to Belgium's and teams like that, he'll go far too defensive, and that's the worry with Southgate. And it happened in the World Cup twice to Belgium, and I just fear that he reminds me of Solskjaer a little bit like Solskjaer. That in the football you've got to be brave. I mean, I remember when Alex Ferguson at his prime, we'd be losing, 1-0. He'd be sending on, 2 more strikers up there, and we'd be like 11, 10 man in the opposition box trying to get a goal. That's the sort of football I want to see. Stop trying not to lose, but more trying to win, in my opinion. And I feel that Southgate's more intent on not losing, which is a bit worrying for me. I don't know what you think.
I mean, in the World Cup, one of the things is, he has a tendency to hook Sterling, and even if Sterling's not having a good game, he worries defenders. He keeps them, he pulls defenders out of shape. He means that the midfielders have to drop in and cover for him. You take him off the pitch, and like you said, their full backs were released. They can get forward, and so I think he's got to avoid situations like that. So that the way for England with the attacking talent, I think you're exactly right. To kill games off is to score more goals. They've got so much talent going forward. The way not to kill a game off is to defend and say, okay, some managers and some squads are built to, get one up and then, that's it. We won't give you a sniff. Let's take all the excitement out of the game and kill it. England's aren't. And so I think the way for Southgate to be successful this summer will be to be bold. Will he be bold? Well, like you, I wonder.
Yeah, I agree. Tony, thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. What are the plans you've got coming for the next few weeks?
To get me lockdown haircut, that will be a good one.
Join the club.
Hopefully we'll begin to see fans back in the games, and that'll be a sheer pleasure. I mean, even I only went to one game just before Christmas where there were fans in the stadium at Chelsea, and it just lifted things again. So I'm hoping for that, and I'm hoping the world gets back to a more regular sort of situation so we can enjoy football properly the way it's meant.
Exactly. Start going to games again and start enjoying ourselves again. Thank you, Tony. It's been a pleasure talking to you. A really good chat, and you have a good day, and hopefully chat to you soon.
We'll speak soon.
Cheers,
Thanks,
mate.